Good morning, everyone. Okay, so when you need to speak, when I indicate for you to speak, there's this microphone here, and you'll need to press the button when I indicate for you to speak so that we can hear you loud and clear. Okay? All right, so let's begin by doing a round of introductions. My name's Councillor Amanda Pinnock. I'm the chair. We will start with my colleagues. Councillor Davis.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Paola Davis on the panel today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Watson. I'm one of the councillors for Denbydale Ward, and I apologise for the late start. It took me a little longer than I expected to get back from Bristol, having been to have a look this morning.
Legal representative.
Hello, my name's David Stickley. I'm one of the solicitors that works for the council. I'm here to give any legal advice to the panel that they may require.
Licensing officers.
Morning, my name is Craig Hayward, Licensing Officer.
Good morning, Mike Skelton, Senior Licensing Officer.
The applicant.
My name is Monikam Sendilnathan.
The applicant's representative.
My name's Patrick Burke from P&B Licensing, and I'm representing the applicant today. And you can call him Manny for...
Thank you. And we have a number of objectors with us today. So we have Councillor Smage.
Councillor Liz Smage from Burstle and Berkshire. And can people just raise their voices a little bit? It's difficult to hear. Thank you.
Ms Renshaw.
Yes, Sandra Renshaw.
Mrs Harris.
And Linda Harrison, resident at number 26 Leeds Road.
And Mr Harris.
No, he's in hospital. Sorry, he's in hospital. Yeah, he's in hospital.
Thank you. So just to confirm today, this meeting is being webcast. And we'll begin by going through the agenda before we go into the main items as to why we're here today. So first of all, the first item is in respect of a site visit, which was due to take place at Londis. Unfortunately, myself and Councillor Davis were unable to attend the site visit, but Councillor Watson did attend. And my understanding is that we will get an opportunity to see the site through Google Maps when the item is being discussed. So just to double check that everyone has received a copy of the licensing procedure, which explains how the hearing will be conducted, and they have read and understood that information. Thank you. So we'll go through. Any interest to declare? No. Admissions of the public, this has been webcast. Any deputations and petitions? None. Public question times, any questions? None. Thank you. Right, we'll go straight into the application as to why we're here. And that's in relation to application for grant of premises licence in respect of Londis, situated at 28 to 30 Lees Road, Birstall. We'll begin by asking the licensing officer to outline the application, please.
Thank you, Chair. The application. On the 12th of the 10th, 2022, the Licensing Department received an application for the new grant of a premises licence for Londis, 28 to 30 Leeds Road, Birstall, WF 170EW. A copy of this application and location plan may be seen at Appendix A. The licensable activities applied for the applicant are as follows. The sale of alcohol off the premises, Monday to Sunday, 7 AM to midnight. Prior to the application, a licence was held with ceased trading under McCall's. PRA 0197 is the number. The licence was cancelled at the request of the premises holder at the time on the 11th of the 4th, 2022. This can be seen in Appendix B. A further application was submitted for the premises by MHC and Sons Yorkshire Limited on the 8th of the 8th, 2022. The application was withdrawn on the 14th of the 9th, 2022. Representations received from a ward councillor and residents can be seen in Appendix C, and representations from the responsible authorities can be seen at Appendix F. Plan of the affected area of nearby residents is in Appendix D. The implications for the council. Working with partners, the council's licensing team work closely with partnering agencies named responsible authorities under the Licensing Act 2003. Responsible authorities including planning, West Yorkshire Police, trading standards, environmental health, fire service and safeguarding children team. Representations from the responsible authorities can be seen in Appendix F. Furthermore, on the 2nd of December 2022, an email was sent to the licensing authority. It reads, from the applicant, in the light of the objections, my client is happy to reduce the proposed closing time to 2300 hours. The hours of opening would therefore be 7 a.m. to 2300 hours. Thank you, Chair.
Have you finished?
Just the... Thank you.
Okay, great. Can we have a look at the site on Google Maps, please? Mr. Hayward, it'd be really helpful if you could take us through this photograph. Myself and Councillor Davis didn't have an opportunity to attend. I know Councillor Watson did, but it'd be interesting to know details about the location. If you can help us with that, please.
Londis is situated to where the blue shutter screen is. The front door is where the red screening is, and Roebuck Drive, it's close. It's just opposite to the rear of the property that leads straight through to the adjacent road. It is a dead end on the end of there. It's on the main road of Leeds Road, I believe. Thank you.
Roebuck Street, is that an unadopted road?
I believe it's classed as a private road.
As a private road, thank you. In the application, it talks about the previous owners and the difficulties the residents had with customers attending at the shop. There's issues. We'll hear a lot more about what the objectors have to say, but it'd be interesting to know the history and the involvement of the licensing department around that time, please.
Due to it being sensitive police information, we wasn't received anything of the sort for the application.
Have we received any information from the police, any objections or anything providing any details that could assist the panel today?
No, there was no objections at all.
I don't have any further questions. I'll move to my colleagues. Councillor Davis? Councillor Watson? Okay, we'll move over to the applicant and the applicant's representatives. Can I ask you to make representations, please?
Thank you. I'll just give you a bit of background into both the applicant and Londis as a company. Londis have over 2,000 members across the UK and that are all independently owned. So even they run under the flagship of Londis, but they are independent operators. They get the support, they get the background, they get the software and help with technology and all the rest of it, but they are independent operators. The prime objective of Londis is to offer excellent marketing, purchasing, store development, IT and supply chain support to allow their operators to grow their businesses and to secure the futures in today's rapidly expanding convenience market. So that they're very particular about who they work with. And Manny has actually got 5 petrol stations with Londis. He's got 1 or 2 with what are now Morrison's that used to be McCall's. So he's used to working with these people. He's got a whole wealth of experience. So this isn't just an application to open as an off licence. This is an application to open as a general store, selling quality goods. It's what Londis do, and fresh foods and stuff like that. So it's not just an application to sell alcohol. And also bear in mind that if they wanted to, they could, if they weren't applying for a premises licence, they could open as a general store without selling alcohol, without any of the restrictions that we've offered within the premises licence application. As stated earlier, the premises was previously licensed for many years. It was licensed prior to 2005. It was licensed under what they call grandfather rights. So there was previously, there was no conditions on it. Right? Had my clients been able to transfer the licence prior to it being surrendered, again, we wouldn't be here today, but there still wouldn't be any conditions on that licence. So moving forward, you've got the benefit of a load of offered conditions that they have to adhere to. For the benefit of the objectors, when an application is submitted, a copy of the application goes to the police, trading standards, the fire service, the EHO, a body concerned with the welfare of children, planning, the Home Office and the Health Authority. There are no objections from the police, trading standards, the fire service, the environmental health, a body concerned with the welfare of children, planning or the Home Office. Now, with regards to the objections, I'll quickly go through. The objection on page 45 states the premises has been closed for some time and that all the problems that existed for residents next to the shop have vastly improved. The shop was licensed for many years. The licence was never reviewed or revoked due to complaints from local residents. It was lost when McCall's went bankrupt. With regards to crime and disorder, it refers to drivers blocking residents' driveways. This is a commercial premises. It's been a commercial premises. I think in one of the letters they actually state that they moved into the house 26 years ago and the shop was licensed then. It's been a commercial premises for many, many years. And if it was, regardless of what it reopens as, if it reopened as a general store, if it reopened as a florist, if it reopened as a hardware store, there are going to be people pulling up outside the shop to go into the shop because it's a commercial premises. States that the shop attracted young people who hung around outside. Doesn't say what they did, it just says that they hung around outside. There are no objections from child welfare, there's no objections from the police. Refers to attempted robberies over the years. This happens to many commercial businesses. And are they suggesting that if a bank robbery occurs, or robbery from a jeweller's, that that's the fault of the bank or the jewellers? I don't believe it is. Public safety expresses concerns about the increase in traffic and that it's on the junction of a busy road. The junction and the premises have been there for many years. Refers to prevention of public nuisance, refers to to nuisance and deliveries. Deliveries will not be before 8 o'clock in the morning or after 5 o'clock in the evening with Londis. The objector states earlier that the volume of traffic has increased in this area, and this is a busy road anyway. So I think with regards to that, there's going to be noise from traffic. If it's, the objector's saying that it's a busy road, so there's going to be noise from traffic from various vehicles, whether they're cars, vans, lorries, whatever. They're all going up and down that road all day and possibly all night. States historical issues regarding early morning deliveries. As I said earlier, there's not going to be any deliveries before 8 o'clock or after 5. Talks about unruly youths and an incident involving a youth throwing stones and breaking a window, which was dealt with by the police. There's no evidence that's got anything to do with the shop previously. No objections from the police, trading standards, the fire service or the AHO, as I said earlier. Public nuisance refers again to parking issues. Page 49 again refers to a robbery, states that the property had been burgled historically and suspect shop customers. No evidence of that and no objections from the police. States that previously underage sales took place or adults purchased for underage. There's no evidence of that. The previous licence was never reviewed or revoked. Again refers to parking issues. States how busy the road has become over the years with traffic from the M62. Public safety refers to gangs of youths. There's no objections from the police. Refers to Sainsbury's having planning permission to build a new store yards away. Londis offer similar products to Sainsbury's. It's not from this store, it's not just about sales of alcohol. It's about selling alcohol alongside other quality goods. Protection of children states underage children were buying or being bought alcohol previously. Again, there's no evidence of that. And no objections from the police. Page 52 refers to the hours and other premises in the area selling alcohol. Other premises in the area selling alcohol is not relevant to this particular application, and I think we've already discussed the hours that we're happy to reduce the terminal hour to 11 o'clock. Refers again to parking issues. This is page 53. Refers again to parking issues. Refers to previous issues regarding McColl's. Refers to current issues or possible attempted robberies. It's not relevant to this application. There are no objections from the police or the environmental health. Page 54 states they have lived there for 26 years and infers that the shop has been licensed from they moved into their home. So that would indicate to me that it was a licensed premises for over 26 years. The letter is a copy of the letter at page 47. The previous licence was never reviewed or revoked. Page 67 from the Public Health. The letter from the Public Health states, we welcome the robust approach to training within the application. States, we welcome the application has committed to Challenge 25. States, we welcome that the applicant has committed to Challenge 25. Refers to the refusals book it's already covered in the application that as a company we provide all of our clients with a refusal book, Challenge 25, and a pack that they can use to train their staff. With regards to crime and disorder, states the premises should have a policy to not sell alcohol to anybody already drunk. That's a legal obligation. They're not allowed to do that anyway. As for a restriction on super strength beers and lagers, we're happy not to sell beers and lagers and ciders above 6.5% ABV, save specialist bottle beers. So quality bottle beers, like, I don't know, for example, I don't even know what to think of as a, you know, say a Theakston's or something like that comes in a bottle and is marketed in that way, and may be above 6.5%. But it's only, and also we've also said that they won't be sold in units less than 4. Now, with regards to the objections, I'd refer to the case of Thwaites v. Wirral. The case in the High Court in 2008 has emphasised the principles laid down by the Licensing Act 2003 and its accompanying guidance, Section 182, that there should be a light touch bureaucracy applied to applications for licences, and that restrictions should only be attached to the premises licence if they are necessary to promote the licensing objectives. It also highlights that decisions on applications should be made on evidence and not based on speculation. And it's our application that the letters submitted as objections are based on speculation. There is no evidence from the police. The police haven't objected to this application. The police haven't even contacted us as an agent to suggest upgrading conditions, or that. So, to my mind, they're obviously happy with the conditions that we've applied. And I think that's all I'll say for now, but I will sum up at the end if I can. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments, I think, and questions. So it's fair to say that there have been issues in the past. I think from what's been said by the licensing officer about the police involvement and detail, although we don't have that detail today, there have been issues. Objectors have alluded to problems in the past. And I think because of those problems in the past, I think it's important that we address those problems that have happened in the past. And we look at the licensing objectives and have a look at how things like potentially prevention of public nuisance is addressed. I've listened to what you've got to say, but what I haven't heard from you is how your client's going to deal with a situation where there is a breach of the licensing objectives. So we've heard, or we've read objectors talk about things like, you know, parking on Roebuck Street and how potentially customers might prevent them from accessing the road. Objectors have talked about a noisy generator, and you haven't responded to that. Is there likely to be a new generator? Because we've heard that there's been a problem with a generator in the past causing noise nuisance. Can I finish? Young people hanging around and potential antisocial behaviour, that is a possibility. But what I haven't heard from you is, if that does happen, how are you going to address that? Or how is your client going to address that? And also in relation to the private road, Roebuck Street, we've heard in the past that customers have used that road. Are customers likely to use that road again? And if they are, you know, how is Londis going to support maintaining that road if there's an issue of customers using it and damaging that road? So those are the sorts of things that I want to hear about. Prevention. If things happen, you know, how does your client intend to prevent them, to put these objectors' minds at ease? Thank you.
With regards to people parking on Roebuck Street, is it Roebuck Street? my client can quite happily have a notice in there and remind customers not to park on that street, that it is a private road, that they cannot park there. Right? He'll be happy to do that. With regards to the generator, he's not aware of issues, but if a generator needs to be replaced, it will be replaced. If it's not working properly, we weren't aware of anything to do with the generator because he's not operating the shop. The shop's closed. So but if anything needs to be repaired because it's making noise, he will replace it, and he'll be quite happy to give his phone number, his contact details to local residents, so that if they have got issues, they can contact him directly and say, "Look, I'm having a bit of a problem with this. Can you do something to deal with it?" With regards to youths hanging around outside, I think the type of premises that this is going to be, there is actually probably only what would you say, 20% alcohol sales maximum? Yeah. Probably only going to be 20% alcohol sales maximum. The rest of it is going to be quality groceries, stuff like that. Londis, apart from the signage and all that kind of thing, it's a very similar type of operation to Sainsbury's and all that kind of thing. So it's not the type of place that attracts, problematic youths. And also with regards to the reduction in the high strength beers and lagers, that will deter a lot of that kind of element anyway. Manny has over 10 years experience of running licensed premises, running petrol stations, and they're under far more scrutiny on a week-to-week basis. They're tested and they're within petrol stations, and he's used to all of that. He's got a team of staff around him that are used to all of that. So with regards to actually running this type of premises, it's a lot easier than running a petrol station because he's not going to be personally under the eyes and ears of the operators of the petrol station. However, he understands that standard. So he's used to working to the standard that they work to. So he won't have those issues. He's got staff around him that have all been trained with regards to all that kind of thing. If they have to go out and tell people to move on, they'll go out and tell people to move on. It's not an issue. He doesn't perceive it to be an ongoing issue. Is there anything that I've missed out on?
I mean, you talked about Manny's experience, which is fantastic. It's good to hear that, he has got experience in this area. But is he likely to be stationed at the shop? Is he likely to be there? He'll be there. He will be there, but he'll also have a team of staff that are already working for him that he's going to move into that premises. So he knows the level that they've been trained at because they've all been trained to that same level of running petrol stations, and they know what they have to work up to. There was one last thing that I forgot to ask about, the shutters. I think one of the objectors mentioned the shutters. Are those shutters likely to be replaced?
If they're causing, he's not really noticed that there was an issue with the shutters. Well, like I said earlier, if there's issues, then it will be dealt with. If he needs to get somebody out to repair or replace shutters, he'll do it. It's not a problem.
I mean, we'll have an opportunity to hear from the objectors a little bit later on anyway. But obviously, you can see from the information that they've provided, there are a number of things that they have concerns about, like the shutters. We've talked about parking and so on. So I think it's really important that whatever the outcome is today, that you really read and understand what the objectors are talking about, what they're referring to. Okay, thank you. I'll move over to my colleagues. Councillor Davis?
Issues regarding trade waste collection? Sorry? Trade waste collection, bins and that sort
Well,
of thing?
they have to have They have to have a contract with any business has to have a contract to remove.
And is there, forgive me, I haven't been on
Trade waste.
Is there a yard at the back where bins and...
I don't know. Is there a yard at the back of the premises to store your bins and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's the backside space is there.
There is some backspace
Backspace is there.
Okay.
at the back of the premises. But every business has to have...
Yeah, and it's just something that hasn't, it isn't obvious from the photographs and it's not been mentioned on there. Thank you. So presumably there'll be a vehicle reversing back up to make those collections as well?
Yeah, sure.
On 2 or 3 times a week?
I think the inside we can go.
How many delivery? How many?
Once a week. Okay, thank you. That's it. That's my questions for the moment. Thank you.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just make a couple of points really. I think it's important to remember here that we're not discussing whether a shop should open here. There's no doubt that you can open a shop here. You don't need our permission. We're not here to do planning. And therefore, I think we probably ought to look at what we're talking about today and make sure that we stay within that, focus within that context. So, for example, when you say to me that Manny will move on people that are causing a nuisance, if I was stood on the highway there and I was causing a nuisance and Manny came out and told me to move on, I would politely tell Manny to go get lost because it's none of his business what I do on the highway. So he doesn't have that kind of control over people. So what we have to focus on today is effectively the marginal issues of almost assuming that there's a shop there operating and we are being asked now to grant a licence to it. So what I'm trying to really distill down into is what difference does having a licence make? Now, I think you said 20% of the trade was likely to be licensed. So I'm looking at this from a perspective of saying, actually what we're considering here when we look at nuisance and so forth is a 20% escalation, the 20% that wouldn't be there if you didn't have the licence trade. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to conceptualise what that means. But I don't think it is just a 20% increase in busyness and so forth. What I'd be interested to hear from you is whether you have any research, market data or anything that suggests whether that 20% of trade is a different type of customer who might behave in a different way to somebody who's popping in to buy half a dozen eggs, for example.
I haven't got any data, but the importance of a premises licence application is simply to offer the facility for people that come in for bread and milk to be able to buy 4 cans of lager as well at the same time. So it's the same customers. It's not, to my mind, it's not going to attract people that are coming over just to buy alcohol, because they don't tend to go to those type of premises. They tend to go to the little corner shops and stuff like that. They don't tend to go to a premises that is primarily, selling fresh food, fresh bakery, all that kind of thing. They tend to, but this is for people within that area to be able to utilise to buy their fresh milk, to get a coffee, whatever. Because all these things are being offered, will be offered within the store as a Londis store. They can go and get a fresh coffee. They can go and get donuts and all the rest of it. But it's been able to say we're offering this package, which also includes alcohol. So if you want to come in and get a fresh coffee in the morning, you can do that, and you can, if you want to buy 4 cans of Carling at the same time, you can do that at the same time from the same premises.
So my follow-on from that would be to ask the question of whether, if there were not to be a licence at these premises, would it still open and would it still trade as a shop?
It would be very difficult. I mean, I don't know what Manny's feelings are on that, But from my experience, it would be very difficult to operate it without a licence. It wouldn't work, not because they're relying on people to come in and buy the alcohol, but because they're relying on people to come in and have the choice. And if they haven't got the choice, they just go somewhere else.
I think on the back of Councillor Watson's question, I just want to ask one about custom, and particularly about Roebuck Road. And I am mindful that it tips into planning, but I am interested in what the answer would be. So how many customers are, if the licence is granted, based on what you're asking for, and I understand that you now want to reduce the licence to 11 p.m. How many customers are you expecting, and where are these customers going to park? I'm just interested to know how that's going to play out.
Most of those are going to be local residents that are coming in on foot. There are obviously areas around the shop that people can park. I don't think there's no double yellow lines outside the shop. So there are areas for people to park. They're not going to be expecting kind of half a dozen cars pulling up at the same time, because it doesn't normally happen. There might be one or two cars pulling up. So I think there's ample parking around the premises, but you've got to think of the other local residents as well that may want to just come on foot.
Okay, thank you. And just the last thing, Public Health have made recommendations. I know that you've alluded to some of them in the application.
Yeah.
Are you happy to follow the full recommendations that have been put forward by Public Health?
I think if you read the application, the bulk of everything that they've asked for was already in the application. They've already said how they're happy that we've stated that we'll be operating Challenge 25, we'll have a refusals book and all the rest of it. But I do think that in that application we cover off what they ask for anyway. And the only amendment that I've made is with regards to the stronger beers or lagers, which there wasn't an objection from any of the local residents with regards to that. It was about alcohol per se.
Thank you. Right, I'll move over to the licensing officer. Have you got any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
I'm going to move over to the objectors to see if they have any questions. Questions, please. You will have your opportunity to make your own representations. Can I start with Councillor Smage, please?
Yes. I would like to understand, please, about the notices that were put up, because they were originally for Wakefield Council instead of Kirklees Council. And I would like to understand the process by which it has been followed to get us to this stage, because notices that were put up have led people to believe that their objections should have gone to Wakefield Council. I would also like to ask about the notices that have been said will be put up in store to ask customers to park elsewhere other than Roebuck Street. How effective would those be? Because notices have been put up previously in stores about issues, and obviously they didn't have any effect. Thank you.
Would you like to respond?
I initially submitted this application on the 9th of me within 10 minutes and said it's not us, it's Kirklees, because I was going by the postcode. So obviously that application was withdrawn. However, I had instructed Manny to put the notices up. I submitted it on the Monday morning, but I'd instructed Manny to put, I'd sent notices to Manny with regards to Wakefield. He put them up on the Monday, on the Sunday night, with me submitting the application on the Monday. Right. On the 12th of that month, I resubmitted the application to yourselves, and then I sent my son up with new notices with regards to Kirklees, and they were put up on that day. And I've got copies of those notices in my phone that my son put up. I think you can actually see a copy of the notice on the on there. If you want to have a look at that notice, you'll see that when it was submitted. So obviously you wouldn't have had the notice. It doesn't matter whether there was a notice went up there with regards to Wakefield on the 9th, because it was not. It wasn't sent to you guys. It was sent to Wakefield. And that's the notice that went up on the. If you want to have a look at that. Do you want to pass it?
I don't think so. I think what
also, I sent copies of the notice to Craig, and I've sent copies of the newspaper notice to Craig. So, as a licensing authority, you've been happy with those for an acceptable application.
Okay, Councillor Smage asked about a notice. You were talking about putting a notice up inside the premises and how effective you think that notice would be, in light of the fact that it hasn't been effective in the past.
We can only do our best with regards to stuff like that. Manny and his staff will obviously be telling people not to park on that road. He can verbally tell people that when they come into the shop. Obviously, for the first few weeks, if it's licensed, if he opens up and it's licensed, he'll have the notices up, but he'll also be verbally telling people not to park on that road. Right, but we'll have, obviously there are going to be notices on there. You know, at the end of the day, he can't tell people where they can park. He's not going to be able to enforce that. He can just say, look, you're going to cause problems with the neighbours if you park on that street. It's a private road. And I think we'll word the notice to that. I don't know how the notice was worded previously. It may have just had a notice saying, you know, no parking on. But I think if we express that it's a private road, then it may make a difference.
Thank you. Ms Renshaw, any questions at this stage?
Could I ask a question, please?
Are you Ms Renshaw?
I'm Mrs Harrison. I've also...
Has Ms Renshaw got any questions? I have her down on my list first.
We're actually addressing more about Roebuck Street, but we have an issue with parking in front of our houses, and we have got, you know, lines for people not to park there. So what can they do about people parking in front of our property as well?
Well, I can see lines telling, you know, that's a highway thing. That's to do with traffic enforcement and things like that. You know, if people choose to ignore those lines, that's not my client's. That's not. It's not his. But if people are choosing to park illegally, then, you know, all he can do is encourage people to park in the space provided.
Ms Harris?
That photograph, picture, whatever, was obviously taken on a very quiet day. And since the shop opened as an off-licence, I've lived there 41 years, lots of the older houses round the back don't have off-street parking, and they've taken to parking down Leeds Road. Legally, they're not blocking our drives, but they are blocking all the parking spaces. And we know of at least 2 who park directly outside the shop now on a regular basis every evening.
Is there a question? Have you got a question for the applicant?
Well, I want to know what can you do about that? If they're parking outside the shop every night, where are the customers going to park? That is a very, different picture to how it is on a normal day. There's no traffic. And as for putting signs up, they've been put up many years, but nobody can enforce anything asking them to move. How will you address people who have already got in the shop, parked over the drives or on Roebuck Street? But there will be far more cars parked there every day, so there won't be the parking spaces that you've just thought there may be. And that is an exceptionally quiet photograph, a very quiet day when that was taken. That is not normally Leeds Road.
Okay,
how would you address where they're going to park if residents are parking down that road? There is nowhere for them to park
Should
most
we
of
let
the
him
time.
answer that question? Let's let him answer that question.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds to me as though residents are already taking parking spaces that are basically allocated for the shop. I don't think I don't think, regardless of whether it was opening up as a general store or opening up as a florist or opening up as a hardware store, there are going to be people that will park outside. There is space there. There's space on the other side of the road. I think what it looked like to me anyway just now, there's space on the other side of the road for people to park. So I think there is adequate parking for people to use that shop responsibly.
I think there's a question about the notice, about even if you put notice in the shop, people may have already parked where they shouldn't be parking. What steps are you likely to take in a situation like that?
Well, I think with regards to when Manny first opens, it will be something that he will be saying to customers coming in, asking them where they've parked and saying, look, don't park across residents' drives and all that kind of thing. I think really initially for the first couple of weeks, if he implements that with himself and his staff to say, where have you parked? Don't park here, don't park there. Regular customers, when they become regular customers, will get that message.
Thank you. Let's move on to the objectors now. I'm really conscious of time. We'll start with Councillor Smedge. Could you make your representations, please?
Thank you. I'll start with the traffic, as we've been talking about that. The traffic has increased considerably on the road, and I agree that picture must have been taken when there were no vehicles, because that is not an everyday picture. Therefore, there is a concern that vehicles outside the shop will be hazards so close to the junction. So if you turn the picture round, there is a junction there, quite a large junction there. The number of keep clear markings that there are down that road around the shop, there's a keep clear marking opposite Roebuck Street. There's a keep clear marking further down outside houses. And those have had to be put in over the years because of the problems that have been experienced by people. So we're not talking about something that is just a few weeks in length while people get used to it. It has been years in length of the problems. Because people believe that they should write to Wakefield, we have some residents here who their objections were put in too late for the deadline because they believe they should be sending things to Wakefield. And they actually live on the corner of Roebuck Street, just out of your picture there. And they have to be on, their residents have to be on 24-hour call out. And delivery vans often block Roebuck Street, often blocked other properties, cars parked down Roebuck Street, which is a private road, and not being able to get out of your own property because of cars blocking is not something that residents want to return to. They've had a quiet time while this shop has been closed. And I think that's the thing, when we're talking about it has always been a shop, it has always had a licence. Well, it's been shut for quite a little while now. And therefore, the distinct improvement for residents is very much there. It is not just, people do not want to return to the previous problems. You say that the hours will be from 7 a.m. Well, I'm sorry, but that still means that people will be arriving at the shop at hours. Presumably, people have to get to the shop to open it for 7 a.m. The shutters, well, they were in the objection, so I really don't know why that hasn't been addressed. And the generator was also in the objection, that when people have their windows open, it can be heard at night. There was a constant litter problem in neighbours' gardens, and it is concerning that people do not think the problems of youths hanging around the shops is something that will happen again. It is the alcohol licence that attracts people to hang around. And I also wanted to say about the deliveries, not before 8 and not after 5 p.m. Well, who can say that that is going to be definite? Because the roads there are blocked on a regular basis, and so it is quite likely that there will be deliveries outside of those hours because of the roads being blocked. And they still will need to park where they block people in, where when you're coming out of Roebuck Street, you can't see to get out of Roebuck Street because of the delivery lorries and also because of vehicles parked. Thank you.
So, representations from Sandra Renshaw.
As we was going to have the same objections, Mrs. Harrison has chose to speak on my behalf as well.
Mrs. Harrison.
Right, thank you. Well, these are our objections. I've lived number 26 next door to the shop for 41 years. Sandra, 26. What was a valuable asset to the community became a liability and a nuisance. There have been more unruly gangs hanging over the walls, throwing their rubbish regardless of a litter bin, discarding their beer cans, many of them underage drinkers. They're a noisy nuisance. They often used to jump over the there is a dividing wall you can't see, into our garden and urinate down the drive. And when you asked them to stop the disgusting behaviour, you got greeted with verbal abuse. That happened many times. If the shopkeeper or any of the shop workers moved them on, they merely came and sat on our garden walls. Mrs. Renshaw had a front window broken because one gang targeted her, picking up gravel from a garden, throwing it out the window. Told them off, she became a target. We had verbal abuse, asking them to move on. Mrs. Renshaw used to walk her dog on Roebuck Street at night, early evening. The gang's abuse would be loitering and standing in her way to be intimidating. Very upsetting. At number 26, we've been burgled 3 times by opportunist thieves. All they cause is simple damage, emotional upset and financial increase to our home insurance. Police attending to give us crime numbers assumed, like us, that it was people watching the house because of the timing. It became a constant worry, especially if we were leaving home at night and the gangs were loitering outside the shop, they knew we'd gone. It's been a target for robbery on numerous occasions and gunshots fired on one occasion, which resulted in police officers trampling all over our gardens one evening looking for evidence. You don't want that in your front garden. They're always late at night when Leeds Road falls quiet. Will it happen again if they get a licence? Who knows? We can see no benefits from the shop reopening. There's very little footfall through the day, and at evening times it's chock-a-block traffic. Where they're going to park, that's the big question. Roebuck Street, is the same. We're a little bit worried that today's youths tend to bring weapons. They didn't originally, but they may now, which makes it more worrying if you go confront them. As for nuisance traffic, you've discussed Leeds Road and how bad it is. And some years ago, I contacted Kirklees Highways about what do we do when we came home from work or anywhere and couldn't get down the drive because we're stumbling over the marks. I was told to stay in the car and wait, hold the traffic up, wait until someone gets out of the shop. But of course, all you got was irate drivers shouting, "Why are you waiting?" And all they ever said was, "I was just calling in the shop for 2 minutes. There was nowhere else to park." But they knowingly blocked our drives. And all we got was verbal abuse, constant verbal abuse. Councillor Smarge has mentioned the deliveries. They have a choice if they bring any sort of a decent vehicle of blocking our drive, number 26, or blocking Roebuck Street. And whichever way, we don't get vision like we should to be able to exit, and it's opposite a very busy junction. 8 o'clock at morning is peak time for the 2 main schools just around the corner. Very, very busy. 5 o'clock at night is rush hour. Kirklees Highways have already submitted concerns about the proposed Sainsbury's at the Coach and 6 traffic lights because of the traffic and how it's increased over the years. So this stretch is already on the radar for being a nuisance. So in conclusion, I'm speaking for Mrs Renshaw as well, we feel if the shop opens to sell alcohol once again, it will encourage unwanted gatherings of youths, underage drinking quite probably, bring crime back into the area and cause even more traffic and parking problems. And we residents do not want to return to being intimidated, threatened on our own property or fearing for our safety. For these reasons, we strongly, and I mean strongly, object. My husband's in hospital with pancreatic cancer. Sandra's had to beg for a day off to come here. We've got better things to do than come and argue the toss about this. That's how strongly we feel.
Thank you. Can I ask the applicant's representative to respond to the points that have been made?
First of all, with Londis, they don't deliver before 8 o'clock. So there won't be any early morning deliveries. The time shot for deliveries is between 8 and 5. The deliveries take 10 minutes because it's all organised. They, you know, the style of the shop now is primarily fresh foods, fresh goods. They'll be offering, there'll be coffee machine in there, quality coffee machine in there, all that kind of thing. So it's upgrading to what was there previously. They're not going to be attracting the element of youths that were there previously. And ultimately, you know, there's no objections from the police. You know, if it previously caused a multitude of issues being licensed as McCall's, then the police would be saying, well, hang on, we're a bit concerned about this. You know, is this summing up or just answering? I'm just... Yeah. I think I have. There will be parking restrictions. Manny's just said he will post parking restrictions on the front of the building so that customers, before they come into the shop, are aware of what the parking restrictions are. You know, I think with regards to answer, I don't really know what, because I think we've discussed parking and parking issues. I don't think we can go any further with that. Yeah.
We can put the cones on the side of the road, and then we can put the no parking signboards, and then we can put, if anybody parks, we will put the fine. We can put the private parking notice on there. Because I have been that shop for 2 times, It's a busy road only, but it's all walkable customers only. Only few customers, they come by the car because I survey the shops because I'm going to do the business on there. So if I be there near to my house also, it's the same reason I will be saying that. But I'll put the no parking board on there. I won't use on the side roads. And then the laundries delivery will be in the truck only. They won't come in the inside of the road. They will park there and then they will sudden 5 to 10 minutes. They will drop it and then they will go. They set up in the trolley. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're coming to the close of this now, and to really allow us to make our minds up about what to do in terms of the application. And the application, as I've said, has been reduced slightly. You're looking at 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. in the evening. Could I ask everyone to briefly sum up, very briefly? We've got a real gist of what the issues are, please.
Right.
So I'll start with the applicant.
Right. Summing up, Manny has a wealth of experience of running licensed premises. Right? So he's used to dealing with all these issues. He's used to dealing with parking issues and everything. And I think what he's just suggested about putting cones out, again, is possibly another solution to that. I don't think that's ever been done before. There are no objections from the police. There are no objections. The only objection we had was from the health authority, and I think their objection, everything that they mentioned is already covered in the application anyway. And I'll just, this shop has been shut since 2018. There's not queues of people. There's not queues of people trying to take over this premises. Manny hasn't had to put bids in for the rent or anything like that, or prove anything. And I think, first of all, it's a commendable thing to do to try and open up a new business in today's climate. And many years ago, I was a pub company area manager, and in 2005, I went to a licensing hearing in Newcastle-under-Lyme. And it was for a pub that wanted to extend their hours on a weekend to 1 o'clock and have some entertainment. This was before the Music Act of 2012. So any entertainment had to be within the premises licence. And we had loads of residents come there objecting because they said, oh, if he's licensed till 1 o'clock, he'll stay open till 3 and all this kind of thing. And the council at the time refused the application. Then about 2 years later, I got a phone call from somebody in that local council saying, could you tell me who owns these premises? The premises had been moved on. It'd been sold by the company that I used to work for and then been moved on to other people. Nobody had been able to make a living in there. And what this councillor told me was that youths had broken into the building and were using it on a weekend as a drugs den. And then all these residents were moaning because this, you know, why is this not a pub anymore? It's now a drugs den and who owns it and all the rest of it. So I think sometimes you just have to be careful what you wish for. We've got an experienced operator here who is used to this type of business, right? There are effectively 6 objections from local residents. 6 objections from local residents. There are, I'm sure, thousands of people within that area that will benefit from this shop. There are 6 objections from local residents. We've reduced the opening hours. Would you just speaking to Manny now, he'd be happy to reduce those hours till 10 o'clock, the closing time till 10 o'clock, if you would be mind to grant it. And at least, you know, we understand the concerns of local residents, but this is an experienced operator. This is somebody that knows what he's doing in this business, right? and has operated. You know, he's never had any issues with any of his previous premises. So why would he start now? I think that's all I've got to say.
So I'm going to move to the objectors now. The goalpost has been moved slightly to 10 p.m. closing. And it'd be really helpful if you could say very briefly whether that makes a difference or not to, you know, your objections that you've raised today. Councillor Smage?
I think it is the alcohol licence that attracts the antisocial behaviour problems. And therefore, it is the sale of alcohol that attracts the number of people that were causing issues before. The objections are from people who are directly affected. It was a general store before with an alcohol licence. If it is going to be a general store again, with all the things that have been said are going to be sold, why does it need an alcohol licence when that gives us so many antisocial behaviour problems? But the reduced hours, it's still going to be a problem because of all the issues that have been highlighted by the residents. Thank you.
Sandra Renshaw?
As he said, he'd put up notices. So in the past, they have put notices up, and all it's done is disperse people from in front of the shop to surrounding areas, which has caused the problems that we have experienced. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Harrison?
Previous tenants originally started at 11 o'clock at night for the licensing hours, and then slowly reduced them because they didn't get the trade. But what it did do was attract attempted robbery. And it's late at night, in winter especially, when we get a lot of problems with gangs. In summer, they're just loitering about at the best of times. The parking, even if you deliver at 8 o'clock, that's when all the schools... there's two schools just round the corner. It doesn't matter what hours, really. I don't think. I've lived there 41 years. I know everything about that road, how it's changed, how everything's changed down motorway M62, everything. One blockage on the M62 and it's carnage down Leeds Road. I just cannot see, if you give it enough licence, we're back to square one, basically.
Thank you. We need an opportunity to consider what we've heard. We've heard a lot of information today. We've heard the goalposts being changed a couple of times. So that really is going to influence to a large extent what we consider and possibly what we decide to do. So can I ask everyone to leave the room, please, to give us an opportunity to discuss this and arrive at our decision. Thank you. Okay, good morning again, everyone. So today we were asked to consider this application in respect of grant of premises licence, and we've heard a lot of detail from the applicant and the objectors about this. And we've taken the time to really deliberate and think very carefully in light of the 4 licensing objectives. And the decision that we've come to is that we are going to grant the licence. We're going to grant the licence based on representations made by the applicant between the period 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. We are going to put a condition on the licence as well in respect of external CCTV. In the application, it talks about internal, but we want external in the event that there are issues that can be captured and it can assist the police in any investigations if it ends up going down that route. We also note what the applicant says about deliveries between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. We know what the applicant says about the generator. If it's noisy, then that will be replaced, and likewise in respect to the shutters. So we've heard what you've said, and that will be something that you will tend to. To the objectors here and residents, we would ask that if you have any problems in the future, you bring it back to the council, you raise it with the licensing department and ask for a review. If you're not happy, you ask for a review, it will come back to us. We obviously know, we've listened to the information that we've heard today, and that if there are any issues, we will obviously take it very seriously and make a decision if there needs to be a review of the situation. So thank you everyone for attending, and we will confirm everything in writing. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone, and apologies for starting so late in the morning. When I indicate for you to speak, what I need you to do is press the button and speak into the microphone. Okay, thank you. Right, we'll begin. So we'll start with a round of introductions. My name's Amanda Pinnock. I'm the chair of the panel. I'll turn to my colleagues. Councillor Davis.
Hi, I'm Councillor Paola Davis, Holmanbury Ward. I'm on the panel today.
legal representative.
Hello, I'm David Stickley. I'm one of the solicitors that works for the council. I'm here to give any advice to the panel if they require it.
Licensing officer.
My name's Steve Mycroft. I'm a licensing officer for Kirklees Council.
Morning, Mike Skelton, Senior Licensing Officer.
Applicant.
Good morning. My name is Richard Taylor. I'm a solicitor for Morrison's.
Hello, my name is George Zamelo. I'm licensing manager at Morrison's.
And we have one written objection from Councillor Viv Kendrick, and I understand she won't be attending today, but I will be reading her objection out a little bit later on. So the meeting today is being webcast. Can I ask if you've had an opportunity to receive a copy of the licensing procedure, which explains how the hearing will be conducted, and that you've read and understood that?
Yes, thank you.
Right, we'll move to the licensing officer then to outline the application, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to inform members of an application for the grant of a premises licence, which, because of a representation received, has been referred to this panel for determination. On the 5th of October 2022, the Licensing Department received an application for the new grant of a premises licence for Morrison's store and petrol filling station at 17 Union Street, Beck Lane, Heckmondwike, WF16 OHL. A copy of this application, plan and a location map can be seen at Appendix A. The licensable activities applied for by the applicant are as follows. Sale of alcohol off the premises, Monday to Sunday, 6 a.m. until midnight. Late night refreshments off the premises, Monday to Sunday, 11 p.m. till midnight. Morrison's, 17 Union Street, currently holds a premises licence number PRA 0194. A copy of that licence and plan is attached to Appendix B. The licensable activities on the underlying licence are as follows. Sale of alcohol off the premises every day, 6 a.m. until midnight. During the consultation period, a representation from one of the councillors for Heckmondwike Ward has been submitted. The representation that was received considered that the following licensing objectives would not be met should this licence be granted. Prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance and the protection of children from harm. A copy of that representation can be seen at Appendix C. Members need to consider the statutory guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, as representations relate to 4 of the licensing objectives. Members' attention is drawn to Section 2 of this guidance, the relevant parts which may be found at Appendix D. Consultation has taken place in accordance with the Act. There have been no matters arising from the responsible authorities. Public Health have made recommendations. However, Morrison's have the same recommendations embedded in their licensing policy, which is attached to their application. When determining the application, members, having had regard for the representation, may take such steps as they consider appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. These steps are grant the application with appropriate conditions, exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licensable activities which relate to this application, or reject the application. Findings on any issues of fact should be based on the balance of probability. In arriving at the decision, members must have regard to the provisions of the statutory guidance and the licensing policy statement, and reasons must be given for any departure. The decision should be based on the individual merits of this application. Members are therefore requested to determine the application. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to questions. Councillor Kendrick, who isn't with us today, has outlined, and it's in the application, about issues in relation to antisocial behaviour nearby. And, you know, we acknowledge that the police haven't raised any objections. They haven't made any comments about the application. But is there anything you can help us with in respect of that?
Yes, Chair. I've spoken to the police myself after receiving their response. They have said that there are issues of antisocial behaviour in the park that the councillor refers to, but there's no direct link to that antisocial behaviour or to Morrison's.
Thank you. I'll move to my colleagues. Councillor Davis.
Just a quick no questions at the moment. I'll hold my question now.
Councillor Watson.
Just to help me out with something. I may have been dense here, but we
That's correct. Including the petrol station in the licensed area.
Okay, so it's just bringing the petrol station within the scope of it.
It is,
so
yeah.
The reality is that if I want to pull into the petrol station and buy some booze at the moment, I have to leave my car on the forecourt and wander over to the Morrison's and buy it.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I was just wondering if I was missing something, that's all.
Move to the applicant to outline the application.
Thank you. Well, yes, you've just about made my application
Yeah.
for me. So it's an application for a new premises licence, but it's in almost identical terms to the existing licence. The difference being that the plan for the application incorporates the petrol filling station. So simple as that. So the effect of the application, if granted, would be to say, well, yes, you can display for sale a bottle of wine or whatever. So if anybody's, wanting to buy that, then they can do it. So we're talking really only about the petrol filling station. The store itself, and you've heard from Mr. Mycroft, the store trades without any difficulty whatsoever. So what I'll do is I'll concentrate on how we promote the licensing objectives as far as the petrol filling station is concerned, because that's the new bit, if you like. Well, the petrol filling station is covered by Morrison's CCTV. So full digital CCTV, images retained, and made available to anybody that wants them, any officers of the responsible authorities. We have a screened counter. And now this is a small kiosk. This is a small petrol filling station. So any alcohol will be behind the counter itself. So there'll be no alcohol for display on the shop floor, all behind the counter. So you'll have to go in, you have to ask for it. Challenge 25, of course, as with all Morrisons. What else have we got? We've got panic buttons. We've got direct links to the main store. Every single member of the petrol filling station staff will be trained to personal licence standards, so there'll be 4 personal licence holders minimum allocated to the store. Morrison's trains its staff regularly. I've said we operate Challenge 25. The Challenge 25 system is reinforced with till prompts, that stall a sale the moment a product is scanned. Well, that product will be scanned behind a screen in the petrol filling station. There's an electronic refusals log. Morrison's does its test purchase, has independent test purchasers who go in to check that its own staff are challenging where they should. That's all, of course, recorded. I've said that all alcohol will be behind the counter. There'll be no single cans or bottles of beer or anything sold, and there's no products that you would expect to appeal to either street drinkers or anybody underage drinking. This is simply a matter of being able to sell the odd bottle of wine, pack of beer to somebody who basically doesn't want to go into the main store. So that's it. The effect of all of this is that the store, as I've already said, trades without any difficulty whatsoever, as does the petrol filling station. And we've already noted that none of the responsible authorities object to this application, and of course there's no reason why we can't extend alcohol sales out. Now, just to deal with what Councillor Kendrick has said, well, of course, everything that she said needs to be against the backdrop that the experts in issues of crime and disorder, the police, don't object, and we've seen that she's raised other grounds, public safety, public nuisance. Well, none of the responsible authorities object to that, so none of the experts object at all. It's not a cumulative impact area, and as we've just heard, there's absolutely no evidence of any link between Morrison's petrol filling station and any antisocial behaviour whatsoever. So at the risk of repeating myself, I'm going to stop there. I have Mr. Zormelo here. He's Morrison's National Licensing Manager. But if you've got any questions or any of the committee have any questions at all, then please, we're here to answer those. Thank you very much indeed.
I'll move to my colleagues. I don't have any questions. Councillor Davis?
Just one question. What the current operating hours of the store itself are what at the moment? And what would what are the operating hours of the petrol forecourt?
Okay, so the store currently trades 6 till 10, Mondays to Saturdays, 10 till 4 on a Sunday. Of course, it can't trade any longer than that. The premises licence for the store permits trade 6 till midnight, and of course we're coming into that period where we like that flexibility to trade longer because of course we're getting into very, very busy times. So as we move towards Christmas, the longer hours will be utilised. As far as the petrol filling station is concerned, that currently operates 6 till 10:30, Mondays to Saturdays, and 9 until 8 on Sundays. But again, you know, there's the facility to trade longer as we can at the moment with the existing license. There is one more thing. I don't know if it's one of your questions. The one thing I haven't mentioned is late night refreshments, because that's the one addition. When I said it's almost identical, I hadn't mentioned. And the answer to the question is coffee. So if the petrol filling station is open after 11, there is the facility to have a coffee, and of course that's caught by late night refreshments. Very much belt and braces, but it's important that we do it.
Okay, thank you.
Right, no questions from my colleagues. Any questions from the licensing department?
I've got no questions, Chair, thank you.
Okay, so we've had one objection, and that was from Councillor Kendrick, and we've talked about that, but just very quickly, just to outline what she said. She said, I'm concerned about this application, particularly off sales of alcohol, because of the amount of ASB nearby in Firth Park and car park there. Groups appear to gather at certain times, often groups of young people, where drinking alcohol appears to be the main activity. Lots of litter, bottles, cartons, etc. is found in the car park and Firth Park, and other ASB incidents are seen, such as damage and setting fire to equipment and furniture in the park, items thrown onto the roof of the pavilion, etc. For people attending meetings in the pavilion, it often feels unsafe trying to access the park through group gatherings there. I would therefore be opposed to increasing the off sales of alcohol in this area. Regards, Viv Kendrick. She's not here today really to expand on what's been said, but that's what she's had to say. So there's no one else here, there's no other objectors. Normally I'd just ask if you have any closing remarks, really.
Well, if I could just very, very briefly, not because I get paid by the hour. Home Office guidance, section 182. Guidance is very, very clear about how we deal with decisions like this. And what paragraph 9.443 says is the authority's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what it's intended to achieve. And of course that comes from the Thwaites case, didn't it? Where the judge, Her Honour Judge Black, said you make decisions on the basis of what she said real evidence rather than supposition, guesswork, concerns. And that's the point here. The evidence in this case is that you've got a good operator with policies and procedures that ensure that its existing store trades with no difficulty whatsoever. There's no evidence of any problem whatsoever emanating from Morrison's at the moment. There's no evidence that Morrison's does anything other than sell alcohol responsibly, and of course it'll continue to do so if the ability to sell that alcohol is extended beyond the existing store into the petrol filling station. Very powerful evidence, and the judge in Thwaite said it should weigh heavily, is that there's no objection from the police, because the police are your main source of advice on issues of crime and disorder, antisocial behaviour. And of course, the police don't oppose this application, and that should weigh heavily. We appreciate Councillor Kendrick's concerns about antisocial behaviour. We don't diminish those at all, but insofar as this application is concerned, the police don't see that the granting of this application will have any impact on those issues whatsoever. So there we are. In the absence of any evidence whatsoever, I'd invite you to grant the application, and what would then happen is that we would be in a position to surrender the premises licence for the main store upon the grant of the new application. So there you are. I'm sorry I've taken a little bit longer than I thought I would have done.
It's very helpful, thank you. Right, so as a panel, we'll need to consider what's been said. Can everyone take a seat outside? And we'll call you back in shortly.
Yeah.
So, thank you. So, we were asked this morning to consider application for grant of premises licence at Morrison Stores and Petrol Filling Station, 17 Union Street, Beck Lane. We've considered the representations that have been made, and we've come to the decision to grant the licence as requested. So, thank you for attending, and all the best with the business. Good afternoon, and I apologise for keeping you waiting, which was due to the cases before running over. So we're here today to talk about application for grant of premises licence for Mole Springs Brewery, Mole Springs in Netherton. We'll start by doing a quick round of introductions, and then I'll outline what the panel have considered in respect of this. So my name is Councillor Amanda Pinnock. I'm the chair of the panel. I'll move to Councillor Davis.
I'm Councillor Paola Davis. I'm on the panel today.
Councillor Watson.
Councillor Michael Watson, I'm one of the Denby Dale Ward councillors.
The council legal representative.
Yeah, my name's David Stickley. I'm a solicitor. I work for the council. I'm here to give any legal advice to the panel if they require any.
Licensing officers.
Jordan Barrett, Licensing Officer. Mike Skelton, Senior Licensing Officer.
The applicant today. And the objector. Are you an objector, sir? Can you just tell us your name? Thank you. So we haven't determined anything about this, but what we're concerned about is the fact that there is information here where we feel that we won't be doing the application justice unless we do a site visit. We need to understand a lot more. We had the property up on screen, so we got to see, the location, but what we don't have is a real, opportunity to have a look at how it might impact on residents and consider some of the objections that have been raised. So I think it's important for us to do that. And I think it would probably be beneficial to all concerned that we go and have a look. So we don't think we'll be able to move forward with the application today. We need an opportunity to go and visit and get a real feel for what the application is about. So I hope that's helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjourn this application until possibly the second week in January. And by then, myself and my colleagues will have had an opportunity to go and have a look. Do any of my colleagues have anything else to add to that? So thank you for waiting. I'm sorry we can't move any further forward, but I do think it would benefit all concerned if we move it until later on. Thank you for attending.